It's Dave Johal once again for Punchout Boxing. Pleased to be joined my colleague in the south, my worldwide colleague, Ra Hokum. Ra, how are you first of all, and what is Christmas Eve Eve? I know you're off to a party soon, aren't you?
I've been partying all week. You know, my two favorite hobbies, boxing and partying. And in the spirit of Christmas, good to see we've both got our Christmas jumpers on.
Absolutely, I'm spotting yours there. No TIE fighters or X-wings in yours, are they? Not as plain.
No,
Oh,
there's
no.
snowflakes and reindeers. Yeah, you can't quite make them out, but yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So, what better way to end the year, guys, than talk about our fight of the year? Sorry, our lowdown, our breakdown of 2024. It's been a great year for boxing. We've had a fantastic start, a fantastic middle, and a great end of the year as well. If you want to consider the result of Usyk versus Fury 2, um, a great way, wasn't it? A great year, wasn't it? Before we go into our categories, Ra.
Yeah, no doubt. The injection of cash from Riyadh seasons really brought us some great cards. And as you said, a great way to end the year with that rematch between Usyk and Fury. Um, yeah, what a year, and hopefully another great 2025 to pick up and carry on where we've left off at the end of this year. So,
I mean, the fights are coming in thick and fast, but we'll have our look at 2025 and stuff that we're going to be up to as well this week and in 2025 after our categories. But let's start this off with let's go for event of the year. So we've had some fantastic events, not just this Saturday. If we're looking at recency bias, but throughout the year we've had the 5-on-5 tournament as well. We've had Joshua versus Dubois, great event. With I think it was Liam Gallagher performing as well. So all these great events. But Rob, I'll come to you first before I give my opinion. But what was your event of the year? I mean, no doubt you've got a lot of events to go on as well. I mean, you traveled the world for Punch Out Boxing. But what was your event of the year?
yeah, I mean, for me personally, it's got to be the Ring of Fire. As you know, I'm big on for when I vote on my favorite categories, it's something that I've got some personal connection to. Ring of Fire, of course, I was there and I fulfilled a lifelong dream. 30 years as a boxing fan, I've been waiting uh, to see an undisputed heavyweight champion crowned. I always had that in mind that the next time that there's going to be an undisputed heavyweight title fight, I want to be there. And the fact that we had a British guy involved, uh, going back like 30 years, like I said, at that time when Lennox, of course, was the last heavyweight champ, it was unusual for Brits to be at the top of the heavyweight tree. This time we had genuine reason to believe Fury could bring it home. And of course, he failed, but nevertheless, that historic event for me, that was the event of the year. But the whole of fight week there, the build up to it, I like a bit of an adventure going to these exotic locations, going to Riyadh, seeing the setup there for the fight week. Yeah, all a fantastic experience. And yeah, at the end, what a dramatic way, a really close run fight between the two best heavyweights of the era. And we saw Alexander Usyk crowned as the undisputed heavyweight champ. So for me, yeah, that's got to be event of the year for me.
Yeah, and uh, you know, we haven't confirmed answers or anything like that, but I also had that down as my event of the year purely because of the magnitude of what this event was. 30 years in the making for an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. In my opinion, and I know it's in your opinion as well, that's the greatest prize in all of sport. To be crowned undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Round number nine was absolutely fantastic. Alexander Usyk, the kissing of the crucifix in round 8 or 7, I believe, as well. When his coach said to him, "Do you want this? Do you want this now?" And he kissed the crucifix, and he just, had this second wind. Up until then, as well, Fury was controlling the early part of the fight. Fury began to fade, but what an event! I mean, that was absolutely electric.
Mhm.
Riyadh season 100% delivered this year. Not just, I mean, I tell you what came close for me as well. The 5 versus 5 tournament came close for me. Better versus Bivol came close for me as well. And to be fair as well, Joshua versus Dubois, the actual event, Riyadh season in London, was
Mhm.
huge as an event. From Liam Gallagher performing as well. Forgive me, Oasis fans, if I've got the wrong Gallagher brother, but me and Rashid, we're not really Oasis fans as such. But you know, Ring of Fire from the promo as well, it was absolutely amazing. I personally thought as well after, was it Day of Reckoning? Yeah, Day of Reckoning in 2023. I thought, how can Riyadh season get any bigger? But what a delivery, Raw. That was absolutely massive. And, you know, not bigging ourselves up too much here, but for the channel to be involved and at Fight Week as well, fantastic. And it was a
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. So there you have it. We're joint in our opinion on that on event of the year. Let's go on to KO of the year. So 2024 produced some great knockouts. Um, and I've got three in mind. I've got three in mind at the moment. And again, some of it may be recency bias. Some I had to think about this again. But I've got three in mind, and then and out of those three, I'll decide. So I've got Wardley knocking out Fraser Clark in the rematch. Now, that for me was a devastating knockout. It was absolutely devastating. That KO, I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere, but it just goes to show as well that anything can happen in the fight game. A lot of our media pundits, me included as well, thought that Fraser Clark would be too much for Fabio Wardley, the experience, the Olympic
Mhm.
pedigree, not just the size as well, because they're both heavyweights, but to get stopped, to get KO'd in that brutal fashion was just wow. It was one of those moments. It was a stop me sort of moment. Then I have to say another one that I thought about as well is Joshua's knockout of Ngannou. And again, that was a devastating KO. It made me think about the Joshua of the past, the Joshua that fought Dillian White, the Joshua that stopped Wallin. That wasn't the Joshua of the past, but the old school knockout Joshua. And we thought it's there. But my knockout of the year is, well, yeah, it's recency sort of bias, but it's Daniel Dubois' knockout win over Anthony Joshua. That generally gave me goosebumps. That knockout made me think, wow, how yeah, not where did this come from, but what tremendous power Triple D has. And were we wrong to write him off? Because that punch round five it was beautifully set up. Joshua was fighting on pure instincts. But what a KO. For me, it's Daniel Dubois' knockout against Anthony Joshua. Right over to you. What's your
That's interesting because like you, I've got three in mind, and two of my three are the same as yours.
wow.
The Fabio Wardley knockout of Fraser Clark. Again, the visual effect of it was stunning in a quite concerning way because the way Fraser was sat down, the way his jaw sagged, immediately all of us were like, God, has he had a stroke as a result of that blow? So yeah, and that dent that formed on the side of his skull. Um, so yeah, I mean, just the sheer brutality of it. That was quite awe-inspiring. So that was one of my candidates. I didn't opt for that, and the reason why will be my usual reason. But the other one, like you, Daniel Dubois against Anthony Joshua. Um, Again, just the whole setting of it, the way the fight had gone up until then, you know, Joshua sort of having been dropped twice in trouble. Then it looked like he was coming back. He'd had Daniel hurt and then went for broke. and then Daniel pulled out that showstopper. And I just think like in front of the whole 96,000 crowd, silencing them because most of them would have been Anthony Joshua fans. That whole setting again makes it a very good candidate. Um, but in the end, the one I opted for, as you know, I always like to have that personal involvement, and it was the knockout of Zhilei Zhang against Deontay Wilder at the 5v5 in June. Again, just being sort of so close to it, not quite ringside, but very close to it because the seating arrangements are pretty good at the Kingdom Arena. Just again, the magnitude of the event, the two names involved. Um, and I guess because there was almost a poignant historical element to it in that it probably marked the end of Deontay Wilder, a once long reigning heavyweight champion, the end of his career at the top. But yeah, and also again the manner of it, the odd manner how Zhang set up, spun Wilder around, so he then got a free shot from his blind side to put him flat on his back. Very dramatic. So yeah, again, just being there in the arena, that's why I've opted for Zhang's knockout of Wilder in the fifth round. It's always scary seeing big heavyweights topple that way. Believe you me, when you see it up close.
Yeah, and to be fair as well, if I'm being totally honest, we've had so many great fights, so many great moments in 2024. I forgot all about that one, to be fair. Um, but yeah, tremendous, tremendous knockout. We're going to go to upset of the year as well now. So again, I struggled with this one, if I'm being honest, because I had to think, were they when you look back, do you think they were actual upsets? That's what I've been wrestling with in my mind. So I've got two in mind, but again, you may have more as well in terms of the smaller hall circuit. But the two I've got in mind, I've got Tszyu versus Fedora. So was it bad matchmaking or was it an upset? That's what I'm sort of considering because with everything that was going on, Tszyu was lined up to win this, and it was a very, very, very bloody affair, wasn't it, Raw? Um,
Mhm.
so, but then I thought, was that bad matchmaking? Did Tszyu take him lightly? And then what made matters worse as well was at the end, having a camera shoved in your face at the post-fight presser and everything like that. I really felt bad for Tim Tszyu as well because we know what he is capable of, but it just wasn't his night. But for me, the upset of the year, and I'm basing this on how the media had this, how the bookies had this, how all of fight week was, completely one side. Do you know what? I'm going to throw another one in there as well before we get to my actual upset of the year. On paper, Shabazz Masood versus Liam Davis was an upset. On paper, the media, not us and some of our other colleagues, didn't give Shabazz Masood a chance whatsoever. They thought Shabazz Masood would be cannon fodder for Liam Davis, who'd blast him out of there quick, from what people were saying. And not many people gave Shabazz Masood a chance. So, but Shabazz did what he did, and he won very convincingly on points almost every round. But the scorecards were completely wild, to be fair. So technically that was an upset, even though it shouldn't have been. But my upset of the year is actually Daniel Dubois' win over Anthony Joshua, purely because
Mhm.
again the magnitude, the stage, what it meant as well afterwards, the silence from some people, the shocking manner in the way it ended. For me, that's my upset of the year. Raw, how did you have it? What did you have in mind?
I, like yourself, had two in mind. First of all, there was one which also involved Tim Stew, and that was him losing his IBF shot against Bahram Murtazaliev. Now, Murtazaliev had picked up that vacant IBF belt against Jack Kulkai, laboured to a win, and looked very unimpressive. Um, Zoo has long been sort of held in high regard as maybe a dark horse of the division. A lot of people actually thought him as heir apparent to Jamel Charlo. Um, a lot of accounts seem to think Charlo had avoided him for 2 years. So he was really held in high regard. Um, and like I said, Murtazaliev had not impressed at all. So the manner in which he blitzed Zhu, I thought that was a hell of an upset. Afterwards, Zhu, I think, as you said, feel sorry for him, gets the camera shoved in his face. And he said something to the effect, "What had I been hit by?" So yeah, that I did have in mind as possibly the upset of the year. But the one I've actually opted for was Liam Paro dethroning Matthias, um, because of course Matthias was considered to be the one of the bogeymen. He'd been stopping people brutally all through his career. Paro again hadn't looked impressive on the handful of times he'd been outside of Australia. Um, and yeah, to go to the champions, a formidable champions backyard and pull out the win, I think that had to edge it for me. So yeah, I think Liam Paro dethroning Matthias, what a win in Puerto Rico. Was it a fluke? Well, the fact that he's now lost on his first defense, who knows? But
An opponent, though. I mean, he wasn't up against someone who, you know, it's like saying that about George Cambassas Jr., when he did fight Devin Haney twice in terms of those losses. So I don't know, I wouldn't consider it a fluke in my opinion, but yeah.
Mhm. But yeah, that's who I'm going for. Liam Paro, great win in Puerto Rico.
No, that was a great fight. We're now going to talk about prospect of the year as well. So prospect of the year for me is someone who we should keep an eye on, someone who may go on to bigger things in 2025 and beyond. A chap who's really impressed me this year is the outspoken Amir Abu Baker from the Midlands. And again, it's not a Midlands thing or anything like that, but I've seen Amir fight a few times, um, and he's had some impressive wins this year. Yes, he is outspoken, and he does like to give his opinion across. However, he does back it up from what we've seen with knockouts, some great boxing. He's sparred with the likes of Junaid Bostan, Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr., and he keeps on saying, "Look, this is my time now." But yeah, I mean, he's great to watch. All of his fights so far, I believe, have been in Birmingham, and he is due for me a great year in 2025 and beyond. So if you don't know who he is, definitely look him up. I think he's 7-0 now, and he's area Midlands champion at the moment as well, looking on to possibly secure a fight for the English title next year. And who knows, that could be against Junaid Bostan. But what a great prospect! Definitely one to look out for, guys. So Amir Abu Baker, look him up. Ra, who have you got?
Yeah, well, just on Amir, of course, I was there for his Midlands title win, devastating knockout. He's from Coventry, got a great support from his Kurdish community. Yeah, so check out the interview with him and his manager Anthony Manning over on our channel, Punchout Boxing. Um, Now, my definition of a prospect is probably quite specific, different to a lot of people's. I classify someone as a prospect before they've fought 10 rounders or for a title. So in this situation, I wouldn't class Amir as a prospect anymore because I think once you've won a title, no matter how low level a title is, at that point, you've got a measuring point as to your level. Yeah, whether you go above that or not, as I'm sure people like Amir will, at the very least, you've established a benchmark as to your level. So for me, a prospect is someone who hasn't yet established that benchmark. So that's just to put my definition of it out there. See, I did have again, it's a bit of recency bias. but there's good reason for it. But I didn't opt for him in the end, but he was a very strong prospect. It was on our friend John's show on TM14, Lucas Rurik. He's a 21-year-old who just made his debut on John's show in Harrow. He's discovered and trained by none other than George Groves. He's operating at cruiserweight, and I went for him because of two things. The rumors have got round in the scene about his sparring before he turned pro. He sparred with none other than Jai Opetaia when Jai was here in the lead up to his fight with Jack Massey, and some of our media colleagues actually saw that sparring session, and it was evident the kid is special because he held his own against, by all accounts, the number one cruiserweight in the world. Um, but more important than that, because we know there's loads of kids who look great in the gym, but it's doing it under the lights with the 8 ounce or 10 ounce gloves. For his first pro fight, they chose Joel McIntyre. Joel McIntyre, the seasoned former English champion, for his pro debut. Yeah. And of course, I was there ringside. I had the privilege of watching Lucas do that and stopped him in 3 rounds. And of course, I got the interview with both men again up on Punchout Boxing, and Joel himself said, "Yeah, there's not many kids that he's fought in his career that are that talented." So yeah, he's an honourable mention. In the end, I couldn't opt for him simply because it was just the one fight he's had. So we are talking about prospect of the year. So I've got to look at the whole of 2024. And I have opted for our own local boy, Tom Welland. Um, I, of course, was the first man to interview young Tom a couple of years ago when he was still just a schoolboy dreaming of the big time. But the kid in the past year and a bit has knuckled down with Will Jones and actually put the work in. He's not just dreaming. And under Lee Eaton's guidance, he's been making slow, I mean, well, not slow, but very good progress. I went for him because fight by fight, his improvements are evident. And last time out, the Nicaraguan journeyman he beat has been stopped a couple other times, but recently the only guys that have stopped him have been none other than Andrew Kane and Chris Bork. And these are two seasoned pros who have operated at British title level. Andrew Kane, I'm sure, is being manoeuvred towards a world title at bantamweight. And we know what a devastating puncher he is. Uh, Tom Welland blitzed the same guy in just his fourth pro fight. That shows how quick he's moving. Tom's out again February the 9th, back on top tier, and he's fighting the former English champ Michael Ramboletsa, who,
Oh wow.
yes, is aging, but he's a very seasoned and experienced pro. So that shows how much confidence they've got in him and how much improvements he's made. So yeah, my prospect of the year, because of the progress over the course of the year, it's our very own Tom Welland.
And Michael Rambalasta, again, people should not write him off. I know he ended a career most notably against Indy Sanga, who was I think 9-0 when he crossed paths with Michael
Yeah,
Rambalasta and hasn't fought since. So
yeah.
he could be a test. It's a good test for Tom. Really looking forward to that fight. We're now going to move on to fight of the year. So again, some fantastic fights in 2024. We've had Beterbiev, Bivol. We've had Canelo come out as well. We've had Fury versus Usyk 2. I've got three in mind. So the first one is it's not recency biases. Kolmatov versus Ford. I think that was a great fight. I think Ford showed up right at the end as well, and just shows as well. Look, anything can happen in the sport. Write me off, but you've got 12 rounds for a reason, and to end the show in the way he did, fantastic. My other one is it was an absolute bloodfest. It was Wardley versus Clark 1. blood splattered across the ring. I believe you were there for that, were you not, Raw? You were there, weren't you? I mean, there's
I was
blood
indeed.
absolutely everywhere. What a great, brutal. Remind me of the 90s and the 80s slugfest. It was almost like two people just pressing a button A and B on the arcade machine, just throwing loads of punches, loads of blood everywhere. It
Exactly.
warranted the rematch. It warranted the rematch, and the way the rematch ended, we all knew how that ended with the stoppage, with a knockout win for Fabio Wardley, who solidified himself in in the domestic European now, and now he's looking at world honours. Um, but the fight of the year for me, because of the magnitude of what it was, and also, the channel was there as well, as in yourself, Ra, had to be Fury versus Usyk, Ring of Fire, round nine as well. If we had more time, we'd say round of the year, but round nine, the whole event, but that fight was something special. Was something special because that hadn't been done in 30 years, and who knows? I don't think we're going to have to wait another 30 years now for another undisputed. But it was special. It was absolutely special. Raw, what do you think? How have you got it?
Yeah, there was a few great candidates. I mean, Brad Paul's against Heaney, Magnificent Seven. What an epic middleweight battle that was. Again, had the privilege of being there ringside. Um, yeah, there's been so many. It's actually it's hard to pick one out. But in the end, the one I opted for is the one you mentioned, the heavyweight slugfest between Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clark. The first fight, obviously, that was at the O2. Again, just for me, it was everything, the arena, the atmosphere, the needle between them, but they're both quite articulate men, so it was almost a classy needle. And in the end, they both men gave it their all in the ring. And again, just being there ringside, seeing these two behemoths knocking lumps out of each other for 12 rounds. Um, yeah, that was again quite breathtaking to be there. So for me, that was fight of the year easily.
Absolutely. And the way we're going to wrap things up, fighter of the year. And again, I'm not going to draw this out too long, but the fighter of the year has to be for me Alexander Usyk. I mean, he's completed. He's 100% in boxing. He's won absolutely everything. He's done so much in these 23 fights, so much this year. It's unreal. He
Mhm.
stayed composed. He's boxed really well. He's a great ambassador. Can there be anyone else who's fighter of the year, or in your opinion? I mean, he's what
No, I absolutely will go with Alexander Usyk. You could someone might opt for someone like Naoya Inoue, but for me, the reason I would opt for Usyk
yeah,
is two things. Him fighting at heavyweight now is, he is the epitome of what it means to be pound for pound because he is so hugely outsized, which means his skill level is that great that it's overcoming a considerable size advantage or disadvantage. Not only that, but I think more importantly, Usyk was against, he had the entire boxing establishment against him. Let's be real, Riyadh season, the TV companies, the promotional outfits, they all wanted Fury to win because he's the bigger money fighter. And a Fury win would have set up those big fights with the likes of Anthony Joshua. So for Usyk to, twice go in as like the B side, if you like, having to make all the concessions um, to make that fight happen, so he could, be crowned undisputed heavyweight champ, and then to win two times against those odds. For me, it's got to be Alexander Usyk. So I'm fully in agreement with you on that. Uh, and yeah, as you said, he closed out the year in style and brought a great close to 2024. And in a bittersweet way, maybe a close to this chapter of the heavyweight division because it looks like the hourglass is almost up for this generation.
yeah, it's a sad way to see it go, to be fair. However, on the dawn of what is the heavyweight division. We've got people like Moses Atumu, Johnny Fisher, even though he had that horrendous night against Dave Allen. Uh,
Mhm.
we've got so many heavyweights up and coming in the division that could cause some serious problems. Daniel Dubois still around as well. He's got one foot in the past and one foot in this new heavyweight division as well. So it's quite interesting to be fair. But look, no, that's been a great look at 2024, Ra. But I just want to say, look, it's fair to say as well, look, we're a small outlet, but we haven't done too bad, have we? If we're being honest. I mean, with the shows that we've done, just both of us rocking around the country. So if you do manage to see us, make sure you do say hello. But 2024, great year, and long we go into. Well, here we go into 2025. We've got some great shows coming up. I'll be starting off the year with Simpson fighting on the 11th of Jan. Ra, what have you got coming up soon?
Yeah, we're just waiting for confirmation for that first Warren Boxing Management show at York Hall, where I'm almost part of the furniture now. Security don't even ask to check my bags anymore. So that's how well known I'm at York Hall. But of course, will be going further afield when necessary. But first, of course, at the O2, we've got Junaid Boston's English title shot, as we mentioned him. He win that, which I'm sure he will, against Bilal Fawaz. That'll set him up for some big, big fights in the hot division. February, we've got Adam Azim with Boxer. We've got Johnny Clark's show at Brentwood with young Tom Welland, his big step up. So there's that, and of course in March there's that great women's show scheduled for the Royal Albert Hall. The poster had it listed as Raw, so all of our media colleagues are saying, were asking me, "What's your link to this show?" I can attest that I have a link. I do plan on going to that show. Of course, it's in London, so yeah, first quarter plenty to keep us busy. And of course, any trips to some of these exotic locations, you could well see me popping up all over the place. So, yeah, keep an eye on our channel as ever.
Yeah, so we've also got Shakan Pitters challenging for the EBU light heavyweight championship on February 7th, I believe. On the 8th, we've got Del Boy's potential last answer in Manchester, or I think he's saying it's his last UK show, potentially against Otto Wallin, which would be a great fight as well. Then we move on to February the 15th, where Nick Ball defends his world title. We also got Pat Brown at the end of March. There's so much going on already. Not to mention as well what's going over on Riyadh with the rematch between Bivol and Beterbiev so early on in the year. Loads going on, and make sure you do stay with us. And thanks for everyone for their support as well in 2024. We're growing on a day by day, week by week basis from our small, sort of beginnings and stuff. And it's almost like independent film, isn't it, Raw? We started off quite small, and we're not doing too bad. So thank you for everybody for their support, and make sure you stay tuned with us in 2025. And most importantly, have a great new year. And if you are celebrating, make sure you stay safe and you have a good one.
Absolutely. And wishing all our viewers Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Cheers. Thank you.